Go. How are you doing, chat? Hope you guys are doing super good today. We are going to kick things off because we have a Starlink mission coming up very soon. Need to be more like Ogre. How's it going? How you doing, charties? Hope you're doing well. All right, that seems fine. And then we can also take the same one and go boop, so you can see the whole screen. Beautiful, and it fits perfectly in that box. How about that, chat? Alrighty then, let's go ahead. So this is actually Spaceflight Now stream. Definitely highly recommend. They do a great sort of like pre-launch forecast even before SpaceX actually goes live. And what are we going to be showing today? This, chat. What's up, Siberian? How are you doing? Yes, this is what we are indeed going to be showing for a launch this evening. We have 22 Starlink version 2 mini satellites. Essentially the version 2 satellite is the one that's designed to actually go into the Starlink, not Starlink, the Starship launch vehicle. But of course Starship is not operational yet, so they've had to condense it down to something that would actually fit inside of the Falcon 9 fairing. So they're basically twice as big as the Starlink version 1 satellites. You can see here on this really great shot of the 22 sats, an argon Hall effect thruster that's outfitted on each one. And these massive things here that you can see, those are the reaction wheels. And then we also have our star trackers. These are our solar arrays over here to the side. Yeah, they're very large satellites. 22 of them fit into the entire stack of the Falcon 9 fairing, with room to spare, of course, but we're we're a little bit volume constrained and also mass constrained, because each one of these is like 750 kilograms, and you have 22 of them. It's pretty much the launch capacity of a Falcon 9 by itself without moving to the Falcon Heavy. But anyways, let's skedaddle and see what we got in terms of SpaceX. There we go. SpaceX is live. We're cutting that music there and we're bringing in the live stream. How about that, chat? Bablam. Alrighty then. Cool. Hope you guys are doing good. How are y'all doing this fine Friday morning, wherever you may be, or Thursday evening? It's still Thursday for me, technically. Fingers crossed for a good launch. This will be SpaceX's 55th mission this year, putting them at almost exactly one launch every 4 days. They are on track to get it to less than that, to less than a launch every 4 days. That's just an absolutely astounding launch cadence. Now, don't get me wrong. Most of them are Friday lunchtime for you. Well, I hope you're enjoying your lunch. Most of them are, of course, Starlink missions at this point, but even still, like having a rocket system being able to operate at that launch cadence is crazy. It's crazy to think about. Ooh, here we go, chat. Here we go. I'm actually back in Florida. There you go. Nice. You're gonna watch it from the front porch. That's fantastic. Heck yeah, Siberian. Good to hear, man. Good to hear. Congrats then. Oh yeah. So yeah, this is going to be booster 1069 giggity.9. Yep, that is the official name. Yeah, it's booster 1069 giggity.9. And this will be the 9th mission of this booster 1069. You know, and in terms, I know it's going to be landing on just read the instructions, I'm pretty sure, for the drone ship. I don't remember about the fairing halves though. What how many reuses we have on the fairings. I'm sure they'll tell us here tonight. Right now, in fact.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessie Anderson, and I will be your host for today's Starlink mission, which marks SpaceX's 55th launch of the year and 254th overall mission to date. On your screen is a live view of our Falcon 9 rocket.
Oh, it's a little humid there at the Cape, chat. A little bit humid at the Cape.
At T-minus 4 minutes and 45 seconds, the range is green and ready to support. The summer weather forecast for launch was looking a little tricky, but the weather has cleared up, so we're tracking a 90% chance.
Multiple camera feeds?
Apart
Say.
from that, the teams are currently tracking no issues with the vehicle or spacecraft.
Okay.
And in just a few seconds, we should see the clamp arms, which are just below the fairing, begin to open. And once those are fully open,
so they have a tracking cam,
which is that structural
second tracking cam. They already have the interstage that you can watch. That's wild.
Next to the vehicle. that will begin to attract
That's
away
wild.
the vehicle to help
Okay.
clear the pad for Falcon 9
Well,
to
it looks
lift off.
like
And you can
we're
see
moving
those
away
metal
from
arms
YouTube
there
and
on
sticking
your
with...
screen moving.
Do they have the live stream here as well? Or no? Not like any commentary? Or is this just for the cameras?
And you can see that the clamp arms are now fully open, so that
Just for the
TE
cameras, it
is
seems.
now slowly
All right, sounds good,
moving
Thomas.
away from Falcon 9.
So these are the
Now,
clamp arms that they were just talking about that were moving
to
away.
roll the vehicle out to the pad, as well as route electrical connections and propellants.
Nice. How about that, chat? We got great views from Twitter events now,
And
which is pretty crazy.
TE is now fully reclined. Now next up, we will have liquid oxygen loading completion on the first stage vehicle.
Once they finish loading the liquid oxygen, you'll see a massive purge coming off the TE on the side here. Basically, they're going to dump all of the liquid oxygen that's inside of the lines on the transporter rector overboard out to the atmosphere. They do this because you don't want super cool, also boil capable cryogenic propellants inside your lines when you have a big heat source about to light them on fire. They can of course expand very rapidly as they go from liquid to gas and pop your lines and react in fantastic ways that are usually in an explosion. He wants to mess with the cameras? I do. I definitely will mess with the cameras once we have like launch, so that way everything is synced up from the launch.
Condensation, so that is the clouds that you're seeing.
Condensation. I'm also going to do a very quick ad, just so that way if anybody comes in here during the launch, they won't miss it.
And in just about
So
10
30-second
seconds or
ad
so, we
rolling
should
right
hear a
meow.
Call out for liquid oxygen loading completion on stage 2.
So hopefully we get, yeah, disabled ads for 11 minutes. Perfect. Perfect. Admanta, good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Right, meow?
Is complete.
Or did you just say
Falcon
meow?
9 is now fully loaded with 1 million pounds of fuel and liquid oxygen. And as you can see from all the soot on the bottom of Falcon 9, the booster.
So we have closeout. There's the purge, the massive purge from the transporter erector.
After
Fantastic.
stage separation, this booster is scheduled to land on our drone ship. Just read the instructions, which you can see there live on your screen.
Gas closeout.
As many of you
Here's
have
just read the
already
instructions.
know,
Nice.
Successfully recovering parts of the rocket allows SpaceX to refly the most expensive parts of the rocket, which in turn drives down
Let's
the
just make
cost
sure
of
we're
space
caught up.
access. Now coming up, we should hear a call out over the nets updating us that Falcon 9 is in startup. That is
And
the
we are
transport
gonna
rocket.
move over to this, I think.
And there's that call out. The internal flight computers have now taken over the launch countdown. Now we're just waiting for the final call from the launch director.
Just finished my ad. There you go. Good. Well, you're
And
perfect
great news,
timing.
all systems are go for launch, so let's watch as Falcon 9 takes our 22 Starlink satellites into space.
T-minus 30 seconds.
We're actually ahead on the YouTube chat. We're ahead on the YouTube instead of Twitter.
T-minus 15 seconds.
Let me refresh.
10, 9,
Yeah, Twitter's behind.
7, 6, 5,
Watch for the green flash,
4,
chat.
3,
Green flash.
1.
Ignition.
And liftoff. Go Falcon. Go Starlink.
Starlink. Another 22 satellites, chat. Nice.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Looks good, chat. You can tell that this is a really, really heavy vehicle. See, check this out. Look at that. We got some live shots here from a different camera angle. Nice. It's awesome having a multicam setup.
Plus 35 seconds into flight, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Space Launch Complex 40 from Cape Canaveral, Florida at 1.
We should also have a couple tracking cams.
Nominal power and telemetry.
There's
We are
one.
throttling down the engines in preparation.
That one's a little bit
for
too
max
zoomed
speed,
in.
Which is coming up here in about 20 seconds.
So
That
next
is the
phase is
largest
max Q.
amount of external stresses that the vehicle will see.
As
on
Jesse
its
just said, it's the largest aerodynamic forces that the vehicle will see during the ascent profile. Ooh, that is clean, chat. That is clean. Great track. Into the
Max
clouds.
Q.
at 10, 11 kilometers.
And there's that call out that we just passed through, that period of maximum dynamic pressure.
I dig the
We will
multicam
throttle
setup.
these engines back up
There's Max Q call out.
and seeing some great views of Falcon 9 and those 9 Merlin engines lit up there on your screen.
MVAC engine chill has started.
So with the MVAC engine shell, I'm curious to see. Oh, they don't actually show the interstage anymore?
Stage separation, SES1.
No, they don't
as
have the
well
engine
as
chill
stage
anymore.
separation.
Dang.
Miko's will where we will shut down all 9 of those engines.
I was hoping that they still in the
lit up
multicam
right
had
on
the
your screen.
interstage, so we could
And
actually
that will
see
help
if
slow
we could see the
vehicle
thing
down in
venting.
preparation for stage separation.
But look at
Stage
that.
one
That's
will begin to
crazy
make its
though.
way back down to Earth, scheduled to land on Just Read the Instructions today.
So as the
And
vehicle
stage
gets
2 will
higher and
continue
higher,
with
those
SES1.
expanding gases are going to
The
start to
second stage
expand to
engine
ambient
start
pressure.
run, and we will
Ambient pressure is a vacuum,
ignite
so they're
that
going all
MVAC
over
engine
the
on
place, and they're
second
starting
stage
to
as it carries
expand
the
outward
payload
out of the
to
rocket
its
engine.
targeted drop-off orbit. And
It's
then
called
shortly
under
after,
expanded plume,
we will have
which
bearing
is
separation.
always the opposite of what you might think it's called.
Are coming up here in just a few seconds.
There's flame out.
Main engine cut off.
There's the
Separation confirmed.
interstage cam. Nice. You should see the stiffener ring right here separate.
Great
And
views there on your screen. We just had Miko stage separation, and you can see
there
on
it
the
goes.
right-hand
Wow, that was
screen
actually
that the MVAC
prolonged.
engine has ignited.
Took a while for it to heat up to the
Grid
point
fins
of
on your
separating.
left-hand screen, the grid fins on the first stage are currently deploying.
Great shot of the first stage and fairing separation. Nice.
And there you can see.
So
on
here you can
right-hand
see the
screen,
22,
those fairing halves deployed from
These are the
second
22
stage,
Starlink. They're going to an
now
inclination of
returned down to Earth.
43 degrees.
And the
So they're kind of
fairing
going
halves
south,
on this
southeast
mission have
here.
flown on previous missions, with one flying for its 10th time and the other for its 11th flight.
Nice shots. That's the
We'll be
second
attempting to
stage right
recover
there.
both fairing halves using our recovery vessel, Doug.
Using Doug. So this booster should be landing on Just Read the Instructions, the drone ship. The last one that was used to haul back the booster from the ocean was ASOG, or a shortfall of Gravitas.
Now what you're seeing on your screen on the right.
They are just cycling through all of those different drone ships.
Looking at our MVAC engine, and on your left-hand screen is a view.
Is a view. It's a view of the second stage from the tracking
Is
camera.
a view from on Earth, looking at the second stage MVAC engine.
I wonder what Jesse's listening to. Usually when they kind of stumble like that is because they're actually hearing the ground comms actually talk. Something that we might not get. It's on a different channel.
Designed and manufactured by SpaceX, Starlink is the world's largest satellite internet constellation. Starlink satellites operate in low Earth orbit, which enables the delivery of high-speed, low-latency
Dang,
internet.
you
to
got quite
people
the
living in
orbital
remote
shipyard
or rural
going.
Locations around the globe.
So the next thing we should see, I'm actually a little bit surprised that we're not getting the first stage cams. Because the first stage at this point, we should be able to see basically getting, it's slowly sort of pitching around to put the engines first as it goes through entry, as it prepares to go through entry. And then the next thing that we have in our descent phase of the first stage booster is, of course, our entry burn.
As I mentioned previously, today's Starlink mission marks SpaceX's 55th mission just this year.
5 minutes too late.
254th
Just
mission
missed it by
overall.
that much.
Now coming
Yeah,
up
it's over
on the first
4,000. I
stage
don't
vehicle
know
will
the
be
exact number,
entry
but
burn. That's the
I'd
first
believe
two
you.
burns that will help it prepare for landing today.
So the next
And
thing that we're coming up on here is the entry burn. You'll notice when the engine starts to ignite its engines, you'll see a plume immediately. That plume is largely circular. And then what you'll see is after a few seconds, they'll actually ignite the two outer engines as well. So it'll be 1, 2, 3 in a line. And when it does that, you'll actually be able to see the plume go into like an oblong oval shape, almost like the eye of Sauron. It'll look vastly different in terms of what it was on the initial ignition. If we get the cams, I'm surprised they're not showing first stage right now. All of these I2 streams are pretty cool though. I appreciate it. It's over 5,000. Is it really already 5,000? All right. So you should see down here, these little lights are actually the vents during startup from the engines. And so here you see the circular plume going into the eye of Sauron, which is really really interesting to see the plume change like that.
Entry burn that lasts about 20 seconds long.
Should get down to around 5,800, 5,700
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
kilometers an hour. You were making an over 9,000 joke. Well, you should have said over 9,000. That's the joke.
Shut down on your screen. The entry burn is now complete. Again, the atmosphere will help scrub most of the velocity on the first stage vehicle.
I'm sad we don't get the first stage camera.
Just a single E9 engine.
Actually, do we?
preparation for landing, which is powerful enough to slow down the vehicle.
We do, chat. We do. First stage. Ah! Look at.
No trajectory.
This is plasma. The first stage is going through entry right now.
Coming up here in about a minute.
Oh, we lost the camera. We lost the camera,
Shortly
chat.
after the vehicle is scheduled to land,
Oh,
we will also
coming back?
have
Trying to?
serial or
No?
second engine cutoff one.
oh, there it
So you may
is.
hear those
Oh, look at
commandos
that.
very
You can still see the
closely to
plasma
the-
going through the grid fins here.
Stage 1 transonic.
Sad he didn't say the thing. Say the thing. Supersonic Retro Propulsion. Okay, better late than never. I got distracted because I wanted to see the first stage camera
Just
after
for that
blackout.
call out that stage 1 is transonic. That means that the vehicle is traveling near the speed of
I'm keeping
sound.
it up just in case they don't show it. Oh, you can
The
actually see
landing burn
the
is coming up here in about 15 seconds or so.
just read the instructions drone ship at the bottom. It just went underneath the rocket if you guys saw that. It's hard trying to now manage the multicam that they have on YouTube, or not on YouTube, on Twitter.
Landing burn.
There it is.
And there you can see on your screen that the landing burn has begun. So let's watch.
Getting a
as
lot of,
Falcon 9 prepares to touch
encoding,
down on
though.
Just read the instructions.
Landing leg.
Has to play with the radio links. 100%. Yeah, it basically creates a gigantic what's the cage called? Electromagnetic
And
interference
as you just
cage.
saw that Falcon 9 has touched down on
Can't
our
really see it
ground
if you don't
ship.
show
Just
it?
read the
Yeah, indeed.
instructions.
Well, I thought you guys could see it. I know I didn't have it full screened at the time. Yeah, this is new to me, chat, trying to manage now Twitter and YouTube.
Shut down.
Barge cam stayed the whole landing burn. That's awesome. I hope we can actually
Seco 1.
go back in the live stream and the multicam feed on Twitter and see that again. Faraday cage, thank you.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Came to a stop just above the deck. Yeah, I'd have to
There's
see that again
call
for sure.
for good orbit.
Yeah, it was
Today's
definitely off the
landing
mark.
marks our 216th overall landing of an orbital class rocket, including Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy missions. And with confirmation of successful first stage landing
Not
and
bad.
second engine cutoff, that wraps up our coverage for now. Be sure to check our social media for confirmation of Starlink.
It dropped and crushed the
Thanks for
crush
watching,
cores.
and we will
Yeah,
see
I'm
you
hoping
next
that
time.
we can ooh, look at that. Just some residuals here. Booster still looks perfectly fine. You can kind of see how low the engines are right next to the deck, though. Usually it stands up a little higher. But yeah, just burning off some residual propellants from the landing burn. That's totally normal, not bad. I dig the multicam, but it's definitely a whole nother beast trying to manage both Twitter and YouTube now in terms of the live stream. Oh, that's a great shot. Wait.
There's that.
So we'll do the replay here in a second, but they are still showing the multi-stage cameras here. Any other? That's the live stream view. They're replaying it. Oh, so now they're replaying everything. Dang it, chat! I was hoping actually, can we? Oh, we can. Let's see that from here, chat. First stage going through entry burn there. Let's see it from the drone ship view. There we go. Take it back. So this is the drone ship view that we didn't get, or that I didn't turn to in time.
Landing leg deploy.
It looked like it touched down pretty gently.
Landing confirmed.
That looked very gentle, actually.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Let's watch that again. Does it go barometric altitude or radar above the deck? It actually goes naps until it starts to, well, one of the cutoffs is if it reaches null velocity and then starts to go positive vertical velocity, it'll shut the engines off. I believe they use the GPS coordinates of the drone ship, because the drone ship is actually working very hard with its thrusters. It has four large thrusters, basically one on each corner, trying to keep it right where the booster thinks it's going to be. And then I think they also use LiDAR to get the range as well during entry. I could be wrong about the LiDAR, but I think they also perhaps use LiDAR. So let's see, there's the landing burn. It looked like it touched down pretty gently, actually. Maybe a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. But yeah, great shot all around. And then if we go back to, that's the interstage cam. Or maybe no, maybe this is the one that I wanted. Oh, we actually get the interstage cam?
Acquisition.
Oh no, okay. Yeah, so there's the entry burn. I want to see the entry burn, the Supersonic Retro Propulsion again, because that was also something that we missed from this camera view. Because they cut it really early in the live stream, but I think the Twitter multi-cam actually had it up for even longer. I know, right, Tylen? I'm so glad they do the multicam now, but like I said, it's going to take a little getting used to try and juggle all the different camera angles. Have they shown it on the no, I don't think they have. And unfortunately, this is the interstage camera, or at least the same one that they were looking at. The same one that was showing it before. So Supersonic Retro Propulsion looking pretty solid. Go back to single engine and then shutdown. There we go. This is what they cut away from so early in the broadcast. So what you can see right here at the base of the grid fin, that's actually plasma accumulation. Oh, what a great shot of this. Nice. Multicam is awesome. That's pretty sick. I hope they add a little bit more usability. It'd be nice to be able to do full screen and change the camera you're viewing, but it doesn't seem like you can without then going back and changing camera angle. But yeah, not bad, chat. And then if we actually go forward here in time, is again, you can actually see what I was saying earlier, the drone ship. The drone ship that it's aiming for, chat, going through the grid fins here. I wonder if you can see plasma on the top of the interstage. That'd be pretty interesting to see for sure. Oh, there it is right there. Yeah, you can see the booster's very active in its control here. They're getting pretty wild, Blodo. Ooh, chat, that is a big miss on the landing though. So here's the radius, and they are like going outside of the sumo wrestler ring. See that, the landing leg? I mean, obviously fantastic landing, let's not get that wrong, but we're also trying to look at this to see to perhaps see how well something like Super Heavy can do a landing in the catch tower, right, and the chopsticks, and if they're using the same sort of GNC algorithms that they're using for Falcon 9. This kind of gives you at least a somewhat of an idea of the dispersion, meaning the plus or minus how accurate they are in terms of their landings. Now, it is one thing to make sure we note, though, that Falcon 9 in this case is doing a very long parabolic arc. That's a lot more difficult than doing an RTLS style landing. So because you're going so far downrange, and it's very hard, the farther and farther you're trying to predict your landing spot, it just makes it have a larger room for error, right? That it has to correct for on the final descent phase. Whereas if you're doing an RTLS, you're not going so far downrange, and you have a much better chance, if you will, or you have a shorter time period that you have to predict forward, and a shorter time period that you have things like wind and turbulence and all these other things trying to disturb your ground track. But yeah, crazy. Let's actually watch the live stream from start to finish again, and then And we'll maybe do some Kerbal Space Program or something.
That call out, the internal flight computers have now
Can hover and translate if needed? Honestly, Lava, have no idea. I don't really think so. I mean, if you guys have seen, like, if you guys remember like Starhopper and those other early prototypes, getting any rocket, I'm sorry, not Starhopper, Grasshopper, getting any rocket vehicle to hover perfectly and being able to translate, that's difficult. And for something that's an orbital launch vehicle, I don't know how much fuel you're going to have to null out your velocity, throttle down the engines to maintain hover, and then be able to translate. I don't think that's in the books for what they can do, Lava, or at least not in the books for what they probably want to do. I wonder if you could see any plasma on the very top of the interstage. Yeah, I wish we had the multicam view for the interstage during that time, but it doesn't look like they had it. Can you open the 4 separate streams and have 4 program captures for each, then just switch between them in OBS or whatever you use? I'll have to do that, Stealthy. I didn't know about the multi-stream until today, until like literally 3 minutes before launch when Thomas showed me it. So yeah, going forward, that'll probably be what I have to do, right? That sounds like a pretty good method. Also, hitting fixed point on land is easier than trying to hit a moving target like a ship. True, Naps. Yeah, as much as the drone ship is trying to stay perfectly stationary, you still have the waves, you still have currents that are kind of moving it side to side, and you have the waves moving it side to side and forward and backwards. For sure, it's definitely a difficult problem to land on something like that. Doubt RCS would be enough to translate it at all. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to use RCS. It would have to gimbal the engines, which is, whoo-wee, that is a difficult problem. Super Heavy, I'm assuming, is not doing the hover slam as it will have a lower TWR on touchdown. Yes. Well, it'll still do a hover slam, right? The landing burn. But you're saying, Bonyetti, that it'll be able to essentially hover? But they can definitely control their descent speed more finely so that they land on the chopsticks more precisely. I don't know. I honestly don't know how they're going to do it. It's definitely a brand new problem. I would think that they would want to try and keep the operations largely the same and not introduce additional risk and complexity involved. The best case scenario, right? They get the landing smack dead on accurate, right? To where as soon as they initiate their hover slam landing burn, they null out their velocity right as they touch the chopsticks. I mean, that's what all the videos that they've shown us kind of indicate. But exactly how much they want the vehicle to be able to quote unquote hover there and be able to move around to grab the chopsticks, or for the chopsticks to grab it, I don't know. It's going to be pretty weird. But it gets cut into by stage 2 calls. I see. You could hear a stage 1 recovery call at 8:50, but it gets cut. What are you talking about? What you talking about, Wiz?
MVAC shutdown.
So MVAC shutdown.
And we just had Seco 1.
Oh, on the Twitter feeds. Oh, I gotcha. I thought, I didn't know if there was any sound on the Twitter feeds. So they actually have the they didn't have the actual broadcast on there, right? Like Jesse, they just had the comms. Isn't Falcon 9 a touchdown greater than 1 at the minimum thrust, even with 1 engine? Super Heavy is lower than 1 with a single Raptor. Yeah, Falcon 9 doesn't have a throttle ability to actually descend on even a single engine. Now, what we have to understand is, would they cut so many engines on Super Heavy to achieve that? I don't know. I'd have to actually look at the engine configuration again on Super Heavy, and I don't know. Do we know how many engines they plan on keeping ignited during the landing burn? Because you're right, they could always just shut down the engines until they achieve that. But like I said before, then you're adding risk, you're changing your control. Like, I don't know. I don't know if they would want to do that. Maybe they do. Maybe that would be perfect, but that just seems like a pretty big risk and added complexity to the control system for that sort of capability. All right, so we are going into replay mode. Replay, get rid of that. Yes, good. Good. Very good. And then take you and move you up here. Perfect. And let's go ahead and rewatch that launch chat. Only the mission loop, gotcha. I think SpaceX has a mini model that they are running physics simulations with. I mean, they're definitely doing software. And all of the mini models that you're talking about are all of the tests that they're currently doing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Nobody's seen or heard anything of like a super heavy grasshopper like they did before Falcon 9 was even operational.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Look for the green flash here. That's the igniter fluid during startup. There it is.
1, ignition, and liftoff. Go Falcon, go Starlink.
It's like running the most basic simulations and going with the rest. And yeah, exactly.
Stage 1 propulsion.
Very, very slow liftoff for Falcon 9 here. Relatively speaking.
At T plus 35 seconds into flight, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off.
I know,
from
right?
Space Launch
Bagnetti,
Complex
indeed.
40 from Cape Canaveral, Florida, at 1:17 a.m. Eastern Time.
Nominal power and telemetry.
So one of the things I want to
And we are
do,
throttling
which
down
we're
the
going to talk
engines in
a little bit
preparation for
about
Max 2, which is
after
coming up here in about
after we watch the replay here, is I want to do this in KSP. I think it's definitely time. We kind of got, or I kind of got complacent with where our coding was and with Python, but I think it's time to do the fully integrated Falcon 9 style of landing and see what can be done in terms of using it in KSP. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to go with as a big project going forward.
We just passed through that period of maximum dynamic pressure. Now we will throttle these engines back up. And seeing some great views of
That is such a
Falcon 9
good
and
ground
those
track,
9
though.
Merlin engines lit up there on your screen.
MVAC engine chill.
That's pretty solid.
And we do have a few events coming up here back to back.
Oh, okay. Calm down.
State separation, SES-1, as well as fairing separation.
So you can see as it gets higher, the gases start expanding outward. That's called under-expanded plume. Like I said, it's always the opposite of what you might intuitively think.
Stage 1 will begin to make its way back down to Earth, scheduled to land on Just Read the
Yeah,
Instructions.
nice, Thomas,
And
indeed.
Stage 2 will continue with SES-1, which is second stage engine start 1, and we will ignite that MVAC engine on the second stage as it carries the payload to its targeted drop-off orbit. And then
But you said, so
after,
some numbers, a single
we will have
Raptor
fairing separation.
could throttle to 75 to hover with nearly empty heavy booster. Okay, yeah, I gotcha. But do they have a single engine in the middle and then surrounded by 7 and then surrounded by the others?
Confirmed.
Because you also have to remember, like, the engine configuration.
MVAC ignition.
Like, can they have...
And great
Oh, there is
views
3 in the
there
middle, so
on
it's
your
3 like this,
screen.
like
We just had
on
LEGO stage separation, and you can
Starship,
see on your
3 in the
right-hand
center. Cool.
screen that the MVAC engine has ignited. The grid fins on your left-hand screen. The
So yeah,
grid
then you
fins
got to
on the
think
first
about
stage
like
are
3, 10, 20.
currently
Thank you.
deploying.
Because then you got to think about, right, like, are they going to if they only ignite 2, then it's going to be landing like Starship does, and Starship lands like this because it's got to point through the center of mass, right? And so it has to gimbal to align through the center of mass, and the actual rocket body is like angled during landing. So if that's what super heavy has to do, then I don't know if that's what they want to do. Otherwise, they would have to burn the outer ring, like 2 engines. That just, oh, that gets weird. Under-expanded as it does not expand enough while within the nozzle build. Exactly, Naps. Exactly right. Yeah, the whole purpose of the engine nozzle, right, is to expand the gases to atmospheric pressure. And you would need an infinitely long nozzle to expand it to 0 pressure in terms of like the theoretical mathematics, right? We can't do that in real life because an infinitely long nozzle is not only impossible to manufacture, it's also extremely heavy. So you always get losses with any sort of rocket engine nozzle. So So basically, those losses is the point where the nozzle is not able to expand those gases any further to ambient pressure, which is 0. And so that's why it's called underexpanded. The nozzle is underexpanding the plume. Yeah. That could keep the exhaust away from stage 0, though. Yeah. Suppose. I don't know. It's just weird. It's a weird operational
on the right-hand screen
domain.
is a view of the second stage looking at our MVAC engine, and on your left-hand screen is a view
Oh, interesting, Thomas. Doug putting in work.
From on Earth looking at the second stage MVAC engine.
They really do us right, don't they, chat, with all the camera views? Now, it's a little unfortunate that we got the ground track and nothing on the first stage. Like, usually they have the first stage track here, which I think I would rather prefer. Since we already have the second stage camera here, it'd be nice to have the first stage, but it's all right. We got the multi-camera feed on Twitter for us now. Next mission from Slick 46 set for the 16th, so a week turnaround, not even a week turnaround. That's wild. Why did they go for hot staging on Starship? A couple of reasons.
As I mentioned
one, because Starship, when it's fully loaded with fuel, is extremely heavy. So they want to make sure they actually have some thrust and controllability during the separation to move Starship away from booster while the booster kicks around for its RTLS burn back maneuver. So that's definitely one. And then in terms of hot staging, you guarantee your controllability because now your engines are on as you separate. You also now have a force that is able to carry your Starship away from your first stage. And you also have the acceleration from that to push all of the all of the liquid propellants in your tanks towards the back of the engines, where the engines are. So you can actually have better propellant feed during the initial startup as well. So there's a lot of potential benefits of doing that, of course, with not without its downsides. Downsides with now having to manage the intense overpressure that can happen when you ignite engines that close to your bulkhead, trying to protect the bulkhead, added structures. You're also losing a few seconds of propellant during that process while the entire system is still attached to the first stage, right? So it's not without its downsides, but the main reason why they wanted to do it, to my understanding, is to try and allow Starship to have a chance to get away from booster. Since it's so heavy, push rod mechanisms and things like that they have a diminishing return, right? The more force you need your pneumatic piston to push Starship away, the larger your pneumatic system is, the more mass it's going to have to be, right? And so it's just them trying to figure out exactly what works, try and actually get Starship away from the vehicles and stuff. Give her a chance to build a system for the new content. Yeah, that's true. Ever since SpaceX started launching, they've been doing HD cameras, which I really appreciate. Yeah, they've actually been really providing us pretty good imaging. Ring refurbishment, or I'm going ULA. Fair enough. 3 center for SEP with the vac lighting after separation. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because they don't need all of them, that's for sure. You light too many engines too quickly, you're going to just blow apart your first stage. Can you imagine the force of 6 Raptor engines on your bulkhead that's only like a meter below you? That'd be a little bit of a lot,
Starlink mission marks SpaceX's 55th mission just this year and 254th mission overall.
Well, they need the gimbal authority, Lava. Only the center engines have gimbal thrust vector control, so that way they can actually steer Starship and stabilize it on separation. I know, right, Hughes?
on the second stage.
Acquisition of signal, Bermuda.
So we should coming up on the Supersonic Retro Propulsion.
Now, entry burn is where we will reignite 3 of the 9 M1D engines on the first stage vehicle, and that helps slow the vehicle down in preparation for re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. After the entry burn concludes, the atmosphere will actually help scrub most of the velocity on the vehicle until we start up the landing burn.
So like I said before, so we're about to see the Supersonic Retro Propulsion, the entry burn actually start here, where you can already see the vents from the turbines spooling up for prepping for ignition. That's what these 2 little lights are right here. They're not actually lights. They're the gases that are being introduced into the oncoming atmospheric flow at, well, basically very high supersonic velocities, and they're interacting with the atmosphere, superheating and ionizing. So that's actually plasma in its very earliest stages here, coming off of those vents. That's why they're emitting light, which is pretty awesome. And then we're going to see the center core engine ignite, and that's where we're going to get the very circular style of plume. And then immediately after, they're going to light the 2 outboard engines as well. So they're going to do a 3-engine entry burn, and that's when you get the very oblong oval shaped plume as well. All happens very, very quickly here. There's ignition, single engine burn,
and there you can see on your left
and transition to 3-engine burn.
Stage, and the engines reigniting on the vehicle. This is the entry burn that lasts about 20 seconds long.
So they basically typically bring it down to about between 57 and 5900 kilometers an hour.
And
Stage 2 FTSO.
They do this not only to slow the vehicle down, but also to protect it from the
on your
entry heat.
screen, the entry burn is now complete. Again, the atmosphere will help scrub most of the velocity on the first stage vehicle, and then we will ignite just a single E9 engine in preparation.
So see, this is where I wish we got the first stage camera for the little bit that it stayed, because we could see some of the plasma accumulating on those grid fins. But we got them on the multicam from Twitter at least, or from X, I should say.
And that landing burn is coming up here in about a minute. Shortly after the vehicle is scheduled to land, we will also have SECO 1, or second engine cutoff 1. So you may hear those callouts very closely to each other.
Stage 1 transonic.
So we should have the landing burn start here in just a few
They
seconds.
just heard that call out that stage 1 is transonic. That means that the vehicle is traveling near the speed of sound. Again, the landing burn is coming up here in about 15 seconds or so.
We should be switching over. There it goes.
And there you can see on your screen that the landing burn has
So you should
begun.
see from here
So
the
let's
drone
watch
ship coming
as
right off the
Falcon
left.
9 prepares to touch down on just
There it
read
is.
instructions.
Came up quickly.
Landing leg deploy.
And like I said, you could really see the booster pretty far off on landing, where the actual landing gear here are just skirting the edge of the center ring that we generally speaking use as like the bullseye. So it's very far off from the side there.
Read the instructions.
Landing leg deploy.
There it goes, and nice, easy, pretty easy touchdown, I'd have to say. It was definitely,
Stage 1 landing.
you could actually
confirmed.
see the crush cores compress,
And as you just
but it
saw,
was
that
pretty much on
Falcon
point.
9 has touched down on our
Expected
drone
launch signal
ship.
cable.
Just read the instructions.
And there's our 26,000 kilometers an hour, and we should have second engine cutoff. I just watched the replay launch for the first time. What was leaking from the booster? So that is residual propellants leaking out. Essentially, they do a purge, right, after main engine shutdown, and that gets any sort of residual RP1 and locks out of the engines. And because the engines are still very, very hot, and it actually went through its own exhaust, some of that RP1, which is essentially like gasoline. It's like kerosene, right? We'll just burn for a little while longer. Yeah, that's totally normal. So there you go, chat. Pretty good flight all around. What I'm definitely going to have to do for next time is try and set up, like you suggested, multiple camera angles or multiple OBS settings, so we can actually switch in between the different camera angles that they have on the Twitter multi-feed. That'd be pretty good. You can see the vent down hitting the fire on the bottom after landing with this just massively flaring up. Oh, interesting. From the drone ship cam. Fair enough. Do I still have the drone ship cam open? I don't think I do. Let me go back up and get it. Or do I? No, I do. So you're saying from the drone ship cam, huh? Oh, yeah. You can definitely see it flare up there. So yeah, this is the drone ship camera. Like I said, we got some really fantastic multi-camera feeds here.
Stage 1 landing burn. Landing leg deploy.
Yep.
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
Yeah, so what you're kind of seeing on fire here is some of the residual propellants burning. Also some of the oh yeah, you can see it. Look at that, chat. You see the purge? And right at purge, yeah, really flared up there. Yeah, so that purge line is basically dumping any sort of residual RP1 and LOX that are still in the lines. And when you feed a flame, LOX, liquid oxygen, pure oxygen, is going to go right and try to burn it all up. Can't quite see how close to the edge that was. Oh no, definitely not close to the edge, but close to the edge of the circle, right? They have like a circle indicating a bullseye. It's the SpaceX X with a big circle around it, right? X marks the spot. So, you know, very, very far from the actual edge of the drone ship, because the drone ship is like a football field size. But the ring itself, it was right on the edge, yeah. That landing deck could use a wire brush and a coat of paint. Yeah, indeed, but it just gets burned off every time, so what's the point, right? Yeah, that was pretty cool to see, actually. Yep, just burning out. It's like just a gasoline fire, essentially, at this point. Just gotta wait to... Oh, is that what you're talking about? So the fuel is known as Rocket Propellant 1, or RP1. Essentially, it's a fancy industry term that just means like highly refined kerosene, right? You basically think of like jet fuel being further refined into like kerosene, being further refined into like rocket fuel, right? That's just an analogy, but it's very, very highly refined fuel. And when you add any sort of oxygen to it, in this case, when it's on fire, oxygen just feeds the flame and it allows it to just really burn really brightly and fast. Very energetic.